Hello! Welcome back to the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast. I am your host, Dr. Jeremy Goldberg, and today's guest is Gala Darling. Gala Darling is so fun and so great, and we have the best time on this conversation. It is fire and hilarity and all good things. If you haven't heard of Gala, she's a speaker. She's the best-selling author of a book called Radical Self-Love, a guide to loving yourself and living your dreams. She's a Kiwi, born in New Zealand. She moved to New York when she was younger. She recovered from depression and a significant eating disorder. She's been called a spiritual revolutionary. She's been featured in the New York Times, Vogue, the New York Post, Elle, Cosmopolitan. And she is a radical, self-love, vibrant, energetic queen. And you're just going to have to listen to this conversation and trust me. We talk about self-love. We talk about the art of living, expanding the universe. It's a really, really great chat, and I think you're going to love it. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. You can find me on Instagram at Long Distance Love Bombs, and make sure to subscribe. Leave a 5-star review if you would. It helps me to get great guests like Gala. Without further ado, enjoy this conversation with Gala Darling. This episode is brought to you by Cured Nutrition. Cured is the leader in CBD supplementation with an entire line of products designed to take your everyday life to its ultimate potential. Their daily staples are formulated with an in-house clinical herbalist, which has taken the traditional CBD regimen to an entirely new level of optimization. If you're anything like me, you like waking up feeling good and living well. You've probably toyed around with the idea of finding healthy alternatives to jumpstart your morning. Personally, it's why I start my day with Cured Rise, which is their focus supplement. It's a powerhouse blend of functional mushrooms like lion's mane and cordyceps, broad-spectrum CBD, and powerful adaptogens. It gives me clean, clear, and sustained energy without any of the caffeine jitters or crash that I get with coffee. After I get going, Aura is next. It's another blend of functional mushrooms, CBD, and adaptogens, but it's got a twist. We all know how important it is to sustain our immunity nowadays, and this covers all of my bases. The vitamin D, prebiotics, crucial antioxidants are delivered straight to the gut, which is the foundation of our emotional and physical health. Am I right? Second brain. It's where the majority of our serotonin production and immune function begin, or it keeps everything in check, performing at its best, so I have one less thing to worry about, and I obviously cannot forget Zen. I use it every night. It is certainly why it has become Cured's #1 selling relaxation and sleep product. You know the long nights spent tossing and turning? Yeah, not with this stuff. It has ingredients like reishi mushroom, ashwagandha, magnesium, passion flower, broad-spectrum CBD, so thankfully, restlessness is something of the past. Cured Nutrition products are your answer for a daily dose of health. Visit curednutrition.com. That's CURED nutrition.com. Be sure to use the coupon code LOVEBOMBS, and at the checkout you will save 10% off your order. Let's just fucking have a go, mate. Gala Darling, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm super stoked to talk to you because selfishly, you are not like the kind of normal guest that I've had on here. Like you are like a full color, wild tapping manifestation queen. And I'm stoked to connect with somebody who is kind of from a different little internet community, let's call it.
Yeah. Yes. You know what I mean? Let's overlap our bubbles. Let's make those bubbles sexier.
Yes. And I mean that supremely as a compliment. I hope it didn't come across as a...
No, not at all.
I'll just start the interview by insulting you. But so for those who have never heard of you or don't know you, what's your deal? How do you describe yourself?
What's your deal, man? Great question. Great way to start. I'm an author of self-help books, which is like the really boring way of describing what I do. But really what I do is I teach EFT, emotional freedom technique, also known as tapping, to primarily women to just help them dismantle all the boring fucking bullshit they tell themselves every day that's keeping them small and stuck and afraid and scared of taking the next step. And I think women really struggle with the I don't know how to do it syndrome. And I get really excited when I can show women that they actually don't need to know how, and they can let their passion and their enthusiasm pull them forward. That's what really like lights me up. And, I love to do it in a fun, sexy, colorful, wig wearing kind of way.
For those who are listening that don't have a visual of what you look like how do you, you have like purple hair and you're vibrant.
I kind of look like a cartoon character. I think if like maybe Jessica Rabbit and I don't know, Nicki Minaj had a baby, Bobby on acid, something along those lines is where I'd position myself.
I was actually going to describe you as a cartoon character to you, and then I thought better of it, and so I'm laughing when you said Barbie on acid meets Jessica
like you just
Rabbit.
you just have to fully own who you are, and I know that that's what I look like, and that's what I'm going for. And when you see the response of like a 6-year-old girl in the street, then you just can't escape that this is how you look, this is who you are.
Are they just like, holy shit, what is that woman wearing? Or
I think I blow out some of their synapses and hopefully will inspire them to be fucking radical as they get a little bit older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it all right that I'm swearing so much, by the way?
Please. Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Okay, great.
Yeah. At this dinner table, all language is appropriate.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I feel like you would provide a really strong example of what is possible for a young girl seeing you. Of like,
Thank you.
You can have purple hair. Fuck it. Like you can dress however you want. Like, yeah, you want to wear this thing? Like, fuck it. There's no limits.
Completely. Like this idea that you can't do it or it's not okay is just a story you're telling yourself. Like the number of women I meet who love my pink hair and are like, oh, I wish I could do that. You can do that. There's literally no one saying you can't. And the people that are actually saying that, like maybe your lame boss or your boring husband, perhaps their opinions aren't actually that important. And perhaps what's most important is that you make yourself feel good first.
No
offense to the boring husbands out there, but like pull your head in, it's not your business.
I just love you already. It's been 4 minutes and 35 seconds. So, okay, let's unpack this a little bit, because to get to the place where you have vibrant hair and you're like, fuck off to the lazy boss and the boring husband, and you're fully owning and embracing your entire honest self, requires a tremendous amount of self-awareness and work, I think.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And so maybe can we take a time machine back to pre-purple hair Gala Darling and talk about sort of who you were and what led you to become and embody this higher self, or this, fully honest version of you?
Absolutely. I think the child version of ourselves is really our true selves. And when I think about the child version of me, when I was 13 years old and discovered the goth subculture and started wearing black from head to toe, and I would buy silver angel wings and wear them around town. And my favorite thing to do with my outfits was buy a helium balloon that matched the color of my striped stockings and just walk around with it. Like, that's my true self. And I think everybody has that secret weirdo within them that they didn't feel afraid of when they were maybe like 10 years old or 12 years old or something. But then life kind of comes in and puts us in this vice and like crushes us down a little bit. And that's what happened to me. So I was always very creative and weird. And I remember always telling people I wanted to be a writer. That was always what I wanted. Well, actually, I wanted to be a writer, an actress, a radio DJ, and I don't know, probably a fortune teller or something. And that was my vision. And people were like, yeah, great, awesome. And as I became a teenager, my parents and my teachers, who were very well-meaning, started to say things like, you won't make any money doing that. You know, if you want to write, maybe you should become a journalist, maybe you should become a lawyer. And the idea of this just kind of made me want to die. And that's not really an exaggeration. It really did. And I think it created a lot of depression within me. And so from the age of about 13 to 23, I really struggled with depression. I had an eating disorder for the last 5 years of that. And I was really miserable. And, you know, when you're a creative person who is then told they have to be practical, I left school and started working and just took these shitty jobs. I worked in a bank. I worked in a call center. I worked at a Lush cosmetics store, which wasn't that terrible, but it wasn't like, you know, the height of my potential. And I was just fucking miserable. And, you know, having an eating disorder or depression can really feel like a life sentence. And one of the reasons why it feels like that is because, firstly, that's what you're told by society. And secondly, that's what your brain tells you too. You know, your brain lies to you all the time, tells you like, you're going to be like this forever. This is a life sentence. You better like hold on tight because this is all you got. And when I was 23, I was dating a guy who was really into self-help, and he came across tapping on the internet. It must have been like some archaic version of YouTube. This is like 2006. And he told me about it and basically was like, if you don't try this, I can't be in a relationship with you anymore because you are fucking awful and miserable. And like, okay, fair enough. Like, harsh delivery perhaps, but fair enough. And at the time, and I'm sure a lot of people will relate to this, I valued the relationship more than I valued myself. I was like, okay, well, I'll do what I have to do to keep this relationship. So I tried tapping. And tapping is basically acupuncture without needles. So you're stimulating meridian points in your body using your hands. And as you tap on these points, you're saying things to yourself. You're confronting your shadow self. You're acknowledging your shadow self. And at the same time, you're saying that you deeply and completely love, accept, and forgive yourself anyway. And it is super powerful. And when you're doing this technique, you're bypassing your conscious mind. You're going straight into your subconscious, and you're literally rewiring your beliefs, your stories, your projections about who you are. So the first time I tried this tapping thing, I was so skeptical. I was still goth. I was like, everything's bullshit, so convince me. And I decided I would try it on something that I felt like couldn't be a mistake or a fluke or a placebo effect. So every day when I walked up the hill to catch a bus to go to work, I would get asthma. I would have to use my inhaler every time. So I tapped on this situation, and the next day I didn't have to use my inhaler. And it was so mind-blowing to me that I could change my physiological response by pressing on my body and saying things to myself that I became obsessed with this technique. And I realized that the things I thought were holding me back were just bullshit. Like it could all be undone. And so I used it on my depression. I used it on my eating disorder. I used it on allergies, back pain, like everything you can possibly think of. And then when I started my business, I would use it on every limiting belief that came up around my business, which I really think is part of the reason why it grew so quickly. So that's the long version of the story. Well, it's actually a shortened version of the long version of the story. But, you know, after I discovered this, I would see other women who were in pain or were suffering or were not feeling their best. And that's so heartbreaking to me because firstly, I've been there and I know what it's like. And secondly, I know it doesn't have to be that way. And we have these amazing tools now that are free that you can use to completely change your life. And so I think it's your responsibility to share what you know with other people so they don't have to suffer. And so here we are today. So this is still what I'm doing. I'm still obsessed. In fact, I'm like more obsessed these days because the technology for sharing things gets better and better. And I don't know, that's who I am. And that's why I do it.
Thank you for sharing so openly.
Yeah.
So when you say that you use tapping for depression or an eating disorder,
yeah,
how do you mean? Like what does that look like? Is that just like simply tapping your face and saying, I don't have an eating disorder, or like?
Not so much. Like for the eating disorder, I went into the bathroom and I took all my clothes off and I stood in front of the mirror and I looked myself in the eye. And as I'm tapping on these points, I was talking about how I felt about my body. I thought it was disgusting. I thought it was hideous. I thought it would never be good enough. I thought I would never be beautiful. Every single piece of fear and disgust and sadness I felt, I expressed out loud while I tapped on these points, while at the same time saying, like, I forgive myself anyway. I accept myself anyway. I love myself anyway. And I think it's really important that we face what's going on with us. Denial doesn't work. Pretending that you don't feel a certain way doesn't work. You have to bring it towards you and face it. And when you can face it and say, basically, like, even though this is happening, it's not who I am. It doesn't define who I am. I might be struggling, but I still accept who I am. You take all the power out of it. Because the eating disorder is a thing where you feel like it rules your life, and how you look in the mirror is the most important thing. In fact, it's the only important thing, and it dominates everything that you do, how you feel, what you eat, what you do, everything. And when you look at it and you're like, this isn't a big fucking deal, and I can still love myself even though this is going on inside me, you literally pull the power out of it. It's kind of like, I don't know, deboning a chicken. It just like collapses in front of you and you're like, okay, well, what else? And it's amazing how powerful it is. It still blows my mind to this day.
Just the deboning the chicken analogy took me for a little spin there. Yeah. So it sounds like what you're talking about is that you had some kind of epiphany whereby you realized that everything that you were struggling with was a story that you were telling yourself in your own mind.
Yeah.
And
completely.
That the denial that those stories were happening doesn't help anything. Mm-hmm. And that when you turn to face your beliefs and your stories and actually became intimate with them through this process of tapping, you were able to begin transforming those stories.
Yes. Like, you have to pluck the weeds out of the garden or all the flowers will get choked. And the flowers in my garden had been choked for a long time. So you have to pull out those beliefs that are keeping you small and scared, or they will completely take over your life. And anyone who's listening who has gone through this knows exactly what I'm talking about.
And so what about people who are having a hard time identifying what some of those beliefs are, or they're really good at denying or avoiding or distracting? So you said that you stood naked in front of a mirror. Is that a technique that you use with clients still? Or?
No, it was just something that like felt as if it was the right thing for me to do in that moment. There's a lot of power in doing mirror work. And when you combine mirror work with tapping, it's extremely powerful, because when you're looking in your own eyes, you just can't bullshit yourself. So, and what you're saying about people who don't even really know what's holding them back, they do know what's holding them back. They're just pretending they don't know. And if you stand in front of the mirror and start telling yourself, like, I don't know what's wrong with me, I don't know what's going on, something's going to come up. And you may be afraid to say it out loud, but whatever comes up is the right thing. And it's the true thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've done some work with clients where I've had them stare at themselves, just repeating, I love you, until something happens. It's like, nothing's happening, just keep going. Like, at some point, something's going to crack, or you're going to have some epiphany or an insight of some kind.
And these tools are so powerful, and we have all the answers we need within us. And there's a real habit that people have of putting their authority outside of themselves. They want to ask, a tarot card reader, what's wrong with me? Or they want to have a therapist diagnose them with something. Like, some of that can be helpful and can give you some guidance, but it only really reiterates what you already know. I think it's so important that we learn to trust our own intuition on these things.
And so how do you do that?
It's a practice. You got to start listening to yourself. And sometimes that means, journaling. Sometimes it just means taking a walk every day and not taking your phone with you and just listening to what's happening in your own mind. You're broadcasting, an internal voice all the time. All you need to do is turn down the distractions and the outside voices so you can listen to it. And look, like, plot twist, you may not love what you hear. It might be painful to hear what's really going on inside you, but you can change that voice with tapping, with meditation, with any number of tools.
Mm. And so then going back to you back in the day with the gothic angel wings and the depression and the eating disorder and stuff. So what was it like when you started to notice this shift? Or I suppose the analogy is you were a caterpillar and then you start to become a butterfly of sorts. Like, was that confronting? Was that exciting? Like what was happening there for you?
It was exciting and shocking. The best analogy I can give is it being like that moment in The Wizard of Oz where everything turns from black and white to Technicolor. And, literally almost immediately, I started to realize how beautiful the world was and how I had just not seen it for 10 years. And I was like, wow, I just don't want to wear black anymore. I started wearing color and I started to experiment with that. I moved to a different country with my boyfriend and I started my website and just started writing for women about how they could change their lives and how it really wasn't as bad as they thought it was. And that all it required was a shift in perspective.
Yeah. So you got like a little taste of the medicine and you're like, holy shit, the world needs to know about this. I need to talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
I mean, and you're still going.
And I'm still going, 15 years strong.
Yeah. Do you, what's your current edge? Do you have anything that you are exploring? Because in my experience, there's different ceilings that appear, right? There's better problems. There's different levels, right?
Yes. My current edge is exploring within intimate relationship. So I've been married before, I've had boyfriends, I've lived with men, blah, blah, blah. But I always kind of felt like, yeah, that's fine, but I'm more productive when I'm by myself and I don't really need anyone. And, boyfriends are kind of annoying. They always want something from you. And I just want to do my work. And it's been really interesting over the last couple of years. I was single for 2 years and I was dating casually, but, hadn't found anyone I really wanted to be in a relationship with. And I mean, I really spent my 20s and my early 30s working like a dog, just loving it, but working really hard and not having a lot of room for anything else. And then when I was about 35 or so, I started thinking I'd love someone to share all of this with. It'd be cool to have someone in my life who was excited for me. That's not like my parents or my best friends, And I was in Los Angeles. So it was a different kind of dating tide pool than I was used to in New York. And I started writing a book about it because every time I have committed myself to the year of writing a book, I become a master of the subject. So I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out why my fucking relationships aren't working and I'm going to write a book about it. So I decided, this is the start of 2020, the craziest year of all time. At the start of this year, I was like, I'm going to go on 100 dates and I'm going to write a book about it. Okay, great. So I started learning about my imago blueprint. I started learning about my attachment style. And it's just been fascinating. So I went on 51 dates throughout a pandemic, which is pretty impressive, actually. But the 51st date I went on was with this amazing man from New Zealand, which is where I'm from. And we've been dating ever since. And so now it's like, how do I integrate this person into my life? How do I let down some of my walls? How do I stop being so fucking avoidant? How do I deal with his anxious attachment style and not want to throw myself out a window? And how do you make space for someone in your life when your life is fantastic? What does that look like? And, I've seen a lot of women struggle with this where they're fucking boss bitches and they get their shit done and they make money and no one tells them what to do and blah, blah, blah. But their romantic relationships are just a disaster. And one of the reasons for that is when you're a boss bitch, when you're in that mode all the time, there's no space for anyone else. They're not necessary to you. You don't need them. So why are they going to stick around, And so learning to let someone into my life and learning to relax and be in flow and enjoy my time and not be a mini control freak dictator all the time has been like an amazing process for me. And so that's my edge. Like that's where I still am. That's what I'm working through right now.
I love that. Yeah, I think relationships will certainly expose every limiting belief that you have, right?
Yeah.
There's nowhere to hide.
Nowhere.
Especially if you've got a partner who won't let you hide.
Yeah.
They can see right through your bullshit and is like, let's talk about this.
I know. What sign are you, Jeremy?
I am a Leo, but I'm right on the cusp.
Of Leo, Virgo? Oh, Cancer. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've got your emotions. Like you're an emotional being.
I mean, I am, but I don't really express it very eloquently. Like I've learned that I like to keep my cards close to my chest and be a little bit mysterious. And so, yeah, I'm working on that.
How does that work for you? Is it good, or does it require some tweaking?
For a couple decades, I was convinced that it worked, and then have learned that actually that was not highly functioning wholeness as much as it was, protection mechanisms and various stories. But I'm currently
very understandable.
Yeah, I'm currently dating a woman who has ridiculous intuitive feeling. Ninja queen energy is her thing. That just has the highest integrity of anyone, and who perpetually calls me forward.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I'm a Virgo and I'm dating a Pisces, and he lives in the world of emotions and saying how he feels and feels everything deeply. And it's actually the first time I've been in a relationship where I'm invited to share how I feel, and me sharing my feelings does not make the other person want to run away or punish me. Like, he's the first person I've dated who can really hold my emotions. And it's quite amazing to be vulnerable when I had like trained myself out of it for so long. It really feels good, even though it's terrifying.
Yes, that I think is aliveness, right? I'm horribly scared to do this thing, but I also know that it's healthy and right for me and exciting, and I'm going to try. Right. And I think like the relationships exposed when we mentioned earlier, somewhat jokingly, like that you get exposed. There's no hiding in relationships. And what I meant was that it illuminates all of these kind of hidden stories around vulnerability equals pain, or having a partner will mean that my business suffers. Right. It's a net negative. And then you have to, or you get to explore these topics and kind of fact check yourself.
Yeah. It's fascinating stuff. Like it is amazing. It's a rabbit hole. Like, it's a rabbit hole, and I'm like humbled every single day. And I just feel really grateful too that I've met a man who's willing to be in that space with me. I feel like sometimes like he's teaching me how to be human, like I have like my robot self very well honed.
Yes.
But, learning to be human, share things, be vulnerable, feel fear is like, it's fucking humbling.
Yeah. I think it's also a profound realization that we don't have those resources or mentors available to us when we're growing up. Like in school, I doubt that you took a healthy communication course or a vulnerability 101 lesson, or even like, I was thinking about this the other day that I was talking to a buddy of like, we should make a program called How to Be a Better Boyfriend, because no one teaches us this shit. And I spent years, like over a decade, trying to figure it out. And what I learned was that I wasn't doing it right at all. I was codependent, and I was not in my masculine, and I was, not prioritizing myself. I was a terrible communicator. I was passive aggressive. But at the time, I thought, like, I'm a good guy. I have a good heart. I'm in a relationship for a couple of years. Like, things are sweet. Do you relate to that?
Yeah, completely. And in fact, almost all the points that you bring up, like, I'm a good person, But then being like, well, I'm a terrible communicator. I'm not in my masculine. Like, same deal. I wasn't ever in my feminine. And I was a terrible communicator. I wouldn't say how I felt about anything. And I would just let it build up until I was a festering ball of resentment who didn't want to sleep with her boyfriend anymore because I literally hated him. It's a disaster.
And what did it teach you?
I mean, really, one of the wildest things I've learned, and this might sound really simple to people who do this all day long, but I just started learning this 6 months ago, is to, drum roll please, say how I feel when I feel it. It's like, duh, really? But honestly, that has been such a learning process for me.
I completely agree. I'm laughing because I've had these same insights and conversations many times of just like, why don't we just ask for what we want and say how we feel?
Right. You know, it's actually okay to say, hey, you're really pissing me off right now. It's okay to say that. And in fact, your relationship will be better if you say it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then when you were a festering, what did you say, tomb of emotions or resentment?
Ball of resentment, I think.
Yeah, festering ball of resentment. I imagine that very minor things were met with very outlandish responses at times.
Yeah. And just like, I'm sure, like, you know, I didn't have a secret hidden video camera on me at the time, but I'm sure I was just rolling my eyes constantly, giving fucking attitude. I'm sure I wasn't fun to be around. And like, I have to own that piece of it.
Yeah. There's such a profound lesson in humility with all of this work, right?
Yes.
I didn't know. I didn't know any better. And
right.
So, I mean, maybe talk to me, if you may, Gala, about forgiveness for who you used to be, what you used to know, because I think that's a really key part that impedes a lot of people from really, claiming their whole self. Is this guilt and shame component? Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, people don't know what they don't know. And if you look really, like, let's be really logical here. If you look at your family unit and you look at the way that people behaved within your family unit and what you saw modeled to you, how could you possibly understand the beauty or power or intimacy building power of vulnerability? Like, if you never saw your mother express displeasure to your father about his really annoying behavior, you're going to learn that to be a good wife, you just keep your fucking mouth shut. And there's no way that you're going to know differently until you have several relationships that basically echo that pattern and you realize how shitty you feel all the time. Like, if you are in a place in your life right now where you're like, you know what, it's just fucking easier to be single, I completely understand. And I also want you to ask yourself, what's going on in these relationships that makes me feel that way? Because ideally, relationships are about two people coming together to build something great, to enhance each other's lives, to have fun and have a good time and all those things. So a healthy relationship should actually make your life way better. So what's really going on in these relationships where you just feel annoyed all the time? Like, what's happening? Are you picking people who disrespect you? And do they disrespect you because you disrespect yourself? Are you pissed off because you're never saying how you feel? Are you pretending to be someone else? Like, the thing about not saying how you feel when you feel it is you're not giving people the opportunity to really know you. And if you don't feel seen, that's why you're not giving people the intel they require to actually see you. And it's really easy to point the finger and be like, well, he's a fucking asshole and she's a narcissist. And like, I just pick toxic people, but like, you're the common denominator. So why is that happening? And how are you inviting this behavior into your life? And that's not to say you're responsible for abuse or someone being an asshole to you, but like, why did you pick them? Because there's a woman down the street who would meet that guy and be like, no, thank you, and just keep it pushing. But I think, the shame, the guilt that we feel about this stuff, you just have to know that when we know better, we do better. And that's just the story of life. And that if you're feeling a lot of shame and guilt, then tapping is a really incredible tool to help you release it.
What would be an example of a mantra that you would use for something like that with tapping? Or like a practice, or, I'm thinking of somebody listening right now that just resonated with everything you said. And it's like, okay, what do I do about it, Gala?
Yeah, you could just tap on one of the points. So like one of the easiest points is the karate chop point, which is the fleshy part of your hand that connects your little finger to your wrist, just like the side there, where it's kind of juicy and jiggly, that chunky piece. You just tap there with your dominant hand, and you might just say to yourself, man, even though I fucking suck in relationships, I deeply and completely love and accept and forgive myself. Even though I fuck up relationships all the time, I accept myself as I am. And even though I repeatedly pick disastrous people, I still forgive myself for doing that, because I was doing the best I could. And even though it wasn't perfect, I'm learning more every single time. And I'm learning from my mistakes, and I won't repeat them again. And I'm doing the best I can with the knowledge I have. Simple.
Yeah. I'm getting better at choosing partners. I'm getting better at communication.
Just learning. Be kind to yourself, and remember that this is a scale, right? You're not going to go from dating a narcissist to being in a picture perfect, enlightened relationship in one jump. You're going to move slowly up the scale, and your relationships should be getting better every time, because you are hopefully learning things from the past ones that you're not going to repeat in the future ones.
I think that's such an important point. It's like, I think we tend to, in my experience, just lump all of our exes together, or like all of our past relationships together, rather than recognizing, oh, that was a level 2, but then I jumped up to level 4, and then, I had that little hiccup where I dated level 3 for a minute and was like, nah, fuck that. And then I jumped to level 7, right? And now I'm feeling strong at level 8, or, it's always we always think it's a level 10 out of 10 though, don't we? Like, I've got it now. It's like, oh, fuck, that level 10 was actually a 4.
In disguise. That's the thing too. Like, they could be getting better progressively, and then you take a nosedive and you date a level 2. And sometimes that contrast is required to wake you the fuck up to what you will no longer tolerate. And it will light a fire under your ass to realize that this stuff is important. You need some education on it. You need to practice it. And you cannot sleepwalk your way through relationships and expect them to feel good.
Yes.
Sometimes you really need a kick in the teeth to realize how important this shit is. It happens in all facets of people's lives, like with their health, with their business, with their relationships, with whatever. Something drastic happens and you're like, oh, fuck, I really got to make a change now. Sometimes you need that leverage to make the shift.
Why do you think we sometimes have to learn the hard way?
It's just human nature. If things are okay, people generally don't change them. People are generally pretty comfortable with the thing that's like average, but that they're used to. And they would rather the devil they know than take a risk and do something different, because they don't know what it's going to be. Humans despise uncertainty. But if we can learn to be comfortable in that place, then your growth will be exponential. But most people will choose comfort over uncertainty, and then wonder why their life is so fucking meaningless and they're considering driving off the bridge on the way to work every day.
Your eloquence is right in line with mine sometimes, and I have to giggle, and I'm trying to be professional and be like, I had this little voice in my head that said, oh, that's terrible. You can't make a joke about suicide. And then another voice was like, that was a really quite humorous analogy that is very relatable.
Because honestly, like, no matter how happy you are, everybody thinks like, maybe I should just kill myself because this is terrible. Like, everybody does that. And I think we pretend that we don't have a darkness inside of us. Everybody has it. Nobody is farting rainbows all day long.
Not even the woman with the purple hair.
Well, firstly, I'm a woman and I don't fart. But secondly, if I did, they wouldn't be all rainbows. It's just truth. Everybody goes through hard shit, dark shit. That is real life. And it also makes the good stuff so much better. If you're eating, a chocolate bar every meal of your life, it starts to lose its flavor. Nobody likes to go through hard things, but they make the good things so much better. It gives you a sense of appreciation and gratitude.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm also conscious there's a gardener just outside my window that's decided
How rude. Doesn't he know that we are recording a record-breaking podcast right now?
Do you know who I'm talking to right now?
Do you know who I am?
Gala fucking Darling. I stopped.
Well, he heard you. Excellent.
I was tapping. Okay, so it seems also that a common thread in your work is cultivating radical self-love. I feel like that's a softball question to you, but anything that somebody listening has to know about that or might not have considered about that?
I think the most important thing to remember is that you're not going to feel amazing every single day. It's going to have ups and downs, just like we're talking about with, eating a chocolate bar every day. Some days you're going to look in the mirror and be like, wow, I can't believe you look like this. Like, how did you let yourself get to this point? And some days you're going to look in the mirror and think, hey, you're a fucking babe. And like, you're doing your best. And to just have acceptance of the fact that this is a roller coaster and it is not a straight line is going to make it so much easier. Like, you're just not going to have a perfect day of loving yourself all day, every day.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. It's like we kind of have this vision in our brain of how it should work or how it's going to happen, or we judge other people on the internet and say like, oh, this is what's going to occur. Like, I'm going to start tapping, and then in a week, I'm just going to love myself completely. And then we have those little hiccups or speed bumps or plot twists, as you said. And it's like what makes the story interesting, right? Like, I've been writing about radical self-love for 15 years, and I still have days where I look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm not satisfied with this. Like, this is not where I want to be. This is not how I want to look, whatever. But I feel really fortunate. Like, I have done so much work in so many other areas of my life that really my aesthetic reflection is probably the only thing where I feel like I don't fully love myself all the time. But when I think about like the way I conduct myself in business, or the home I live in, or the friendships I've cultivated, or the health practices I have, I really do feel very consistently good about those things. And so, we all have our area that's a little bit harder, right? Like, body image for me is a big thing. I had an eating disorder when I was younger. And so there's a little stickiness around that, which doesn't mean that I punish myself by withholding food or anything like that. I do treat my body really well, but that's like one area that I feel like is always going to have a little bit of grit to it for me, and everybody has their different area that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge, and that has to be okay, because that's the hand that you were dealt. And I also really believe that the things that are hard for us is where we can teach other people so much, because you can't teach something you haven't experienced. And so it's something I can speak to with a lot of authority and confidence, because I've been there a million times. Yeah, amen to that. I completely agree with you. It's like turning pain into passion or purpose is how I've described it.
Completely.
Like, you could read a book about overcoming depression and overcoming an eating disorder, but until you've actually done it like you have, it's a significantly more meaningful experience.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
Gosh, I just had a great question and I forgot it. Dang it. Oh, well.
Was it about body image or...
It was about... Jesus. It was
Tap
about...
your karate chop point and it might come back.
It was about the idea that, you said something about the unexpected helps develop the plot or something like this. Or
like the grit makes everything else taste better.
Yeah, like no rain, no rainbows. Like, I think Dolly Parton said that, right? And so,
she's an icon.
I remember what it was.
Okay.
You were talking about like self-love and your maturation and growth and whatnot. And one thing I wanted to share was that for me, I still definitely have those voices that come up where, so like some of my brand is aligned with this idea of making kindness cool and compassion commonplace. That's like the one sentence thing. I'm all about that. I think that would sincerely change the world. I'm like the sort of the kindness guy in some sense. And like, I've been at the airport and looked at a toddler who's crying and been like, I want to go over there and just kick that child straight through that window into an airplane engine. Like, I want to do that right now. And then it's like, huh. And so I have those thoughts, and I share that not to promote that idea, but just to share the idea that, like, as I've gotten older, better, advanced levels in this personal development stuff, I sort of judge my progress by how quickly I recognize the voices in my head. So it's like, oh, hang on, that's a story. Or is that true? Or what are you talking about? Or why are you saying that to yourself? And so I find that the shorter time that I can let myself remain in those kind of vortexes or those vortices of judgment and poor self-talk and shame and guilt and fear, the better off I am. So like I can catch it quicker.
Right. Your self-awareness is like stepped up. So it's like on hyperspeed, right?
Yeah. And I feel like, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, the truth is that humans contain multitudes, and we are all hypocrites. Every single one of us. Like, we're all going to do and say things that are out of alignment with what we preach, because humans are not perfect. You can't just, robot your way through and be an exemplary human all the time. Like, here we go. I had McDonald's for dinner last night, and I didn't just have McDonald's. I had a hamburger, a spicy chicken sandwich, 6 chicken McNuggets, an apple pie, and a hot fudge sundae. Now,
you fucking went for it.
I fucking went for it. And even worse, I had it delivered to my door. I didn't even have to leave my house to get it. It was like the laziest thing ever. And at the same time, I'm like, drink your water, tap on your stuff, love yourself, honor your body. You know what? Sometimes you just want a fucking hot fudge sundae from McDonald's while you watch The Girls Next Door reruns on Amazon Prime in bed, and it has to be okay.
Yeah. Like, no shame in that.
No fucking shame. Who cares? Live your life.
Yeah. How boring to just eat kale every day, right? Like a hamster.
Seriously. You're designed to have chicken McNuggets from time to time, and you should enjoy them.
Or whatever it is. Like, maybe that means you don't go to a yoga class today and you just take a bath, or you know.
Yeah, or masturbate for like 3 hours. Like, live your life.
You're so fun. I want to be your friend.
We can be friends. You seem cool. I like you.
Thanks, Gala. So I'm conscious of time because in this podcast, we honor boundaries and respect the feminine.
God bless.
And we are at 44 minutes.
Woo!
But where can people find you? Do you have anything new and exciting coming up that you want to talk about?
I do. I have an abundance class that's has just come out at the time that this comes out. It's called Cash Money Honey. It's really sexy and fun. Like, self-development can be fun. That's what it's all about for me. I won't like tie up your time making you do boring hour-long meditations. I like to get in and get out. I like results. So that has just come out. And everything of mine is at galadarling.com, or I'm at Gala Darling on Instagram. Very busy over on Instagram. I love that stupid platform.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're doing well. I know you've got a couple of books that I want to mention if people are listening right now and you love books.
Sure.
You've got one called Radical Self-Love, for example. And
yes.
I think one or two others.
Yeah. Radical Radiance, which is a manifesting book, and Hologram Heart is my relationship book. So you get to read about this journey of me meeting this crazy New Zealander who's turned my world upside down.
That was the 51 dates?
Yeah.
God, I didn't even ask you anything about that 51 dates.
Oh, Jesus. It's like a whole other podcast, to be honest.
Yeah.
I have a document. I wrote down everybody's name and their sign, and they said where we went on the date.
Oh, that's fun.
It's very, very Virgo, you know. You got to keep it organized so you just forget.
Like a little time capsule.
Yeah, exactly.
And then but I know I'm conscious of time, but so you had the 51st date with this guy and you're like, I want to have another one with him. I want to stop doing the 100.
Yeah. Like, I was just like, God, why would I keep subjecting myself to terrible first dates when you meet someone you really like and who's interesting, right? Like, it can be so challenging to meet someone who's vibrant and and livens your world up when you are already pretty good at doing that for yourself. So, that's a significant quest, right?
Yeah, and it's
I mean, we've been on a lot of dates since. It probably is like 100 dates. I should probably like try and tally them up, but it might be challenging.
Yeah.
Like our first date, he took me to like race Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and then took me to like shoot machine guns and ride around in a jet boat. Like, I mean, he's a special guy.
Yeah. I love how inspiring that is too, because I think it could have been so easy to be like, well, I did 50, didn't find my person. Like, that's a good amount. I'm going to take some time off. And you're like, oh, the 51st. Like, that's a lot of dates.
You just got to commit to it. And there are some weirdos. I went on a date with a guy who worked at Balenciaga who asked me to marry him while we were at dinner on a first date. Like, woo, boy, it is wild out there. But, you just got to have a sense of humor and just keep plugging away and have faith.
Well, Gala Darling, thanks so much for sharing an hour of your life with me and being so open and honest and just hilarious. I really appreciate you and what you do. And yeah, thanks again.
Thanks, Jeremy.
I tried to tell you, I tried to warn you at the beginning in the introduction, and I said, this one's hilarious and fun and super powerful. And you listened to me, right? And you believe me by now because I'm a truth teller and I want the best for you. So that was Gala Darling. I've included links in the show notes to all of her goodies, to all of her spaces on the internet that you can get into her bubble, which I encourage you to consider doing because she is wonderful. And I just wanted to thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. Thank you for the 5-star reviews. Those are very helpful. Thanks for subscribing so that you don't miss another episode. And thanks for sharing this with one of your friends or family members that you think would benefit from hearing it. I adore you and I appreciate you, and I want nothing but the best for you. Truly.